Final Destination 2, a 2003 American supernatural horror film directed by David R. Ellis. The film follows college student Kimberly, who ends up going on a road trip with her 3 friends, where Kimberly gets a vision that a huge crash is going to happen. When she manages to save herself, death comes back with a vengeance for her and the other people who Kimberly saved. It's a great sequel to the first Final Destination, and it stays true to the original and even brings back character Claire Rivers from the first movie. So get yourselves comfy and let's take a look at the top 10 moments from Final Destination 2. Number 10, The Premonition. Like all Final Destination movies, the film starts off with one main character having a premonition about their death, along with their friends and other characters. In this movie, it's main character Kimberly who has this premonition. It starts off on the highway when Kimberly takes 3 of her friends on a road trip. While Kimberly is driving, she starts seeing some very odd warnings. At one point, she sees a guy drinking a beer while driving, and in another, she sees a little boy playing with 2 cars and crashing them into each other, which, by the way, one of the toy cars that this boy is playing with is the spitting image of Kimberly's car. We slowly get introduced to some of the other characters who are driving on the same highway, including police officer Thomas Burke. While Officer Burke is driving, his coffee spills all over him, and then next minute, the vehicle in front of him that's carrying humongous tree logs falls off, and one of them goes straight into Officer Burke's car and killing him instantly. The tree logs end up causing a huge pileup on the freeway, and it's absolute carnage. All of the characters that we were introduced to have just died, and just as Kimberly and her friends are about to die, Kimberly comes back to reality from a premonition. Kimberly then starts to panic, and some of the warning signs that she saw in her premonition start happening. So Kimberly pulls her car over the freeway and blocks in all the traffic. Officer Burke comes out to see what's happening, and Kimberly tries telling him that there is going to be a huge pileup. But then all of a sudden, Kimberly sees the truck that's carrying the tree logs whiz past them. And it's too late, the pileup begins. Kimberly manages to save all of the other characters from the crash apart from her 3 friends, who end up getting killed when a passing vehicle goes into them, setting the movie up perfectly. Number 9, Evan Lewis's death. Evan Lewis is one of the characters who was saved from the pileup. Now let's just say Evan Lewis isn't the sharpest tool in the box. In a scene where Evan is carrying a load of shopping into his apartment, we learn that he has recently won the lottery, and he's been splashing out. He then decides to cook some food, spilling oil everywhere in the process. He then reheats some old food in the microwave, not realizing that a fridge magnet has fallen into the package. He then drops his new gold ring down the sinkhole, and when Evan sticks his hand down there to try and get it back, he ends up getting stuck. Before you know it, the food in the pan and in the microwave catches fire while Evan is stuck to the sink. He manages to get free and tries to put out the fire with the extinguisher, but the extinguisher runs out of water. So Evan makes an escape through the fire escape before the whole apartment blows up. As he's climbing down the ladder, he ends up falling off and landing on his back. He then looks up and the ladder then suddenly expands right down into his face. Any closer and he literally would have been impaled. Just when you think Evan is safe, the extendable ladder plunges right into Evan's eye. It's a great scene which gets you guessing on how Evan is going to perish. I mean, the eyeball scene might seem a little bit fake by today's standards, but it still catches new viewers off guard every time. Number 8, Tim's dentist nightmare. Look away now if you don't like dentists. Nora ends up taking her son Tim to the dentist, and let's just say things go very, very wrong. While the dentist is about to start drilling into Tim's mouth, pigeons keep flying into the window, causing Tim and the dentist to jump, which is just what you don't want when you're about to be drilled. The dentist decides to give Tim some gas in there, but then the dentist is called to the reception and Tim is left on his own under the gas and air, which I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do. The gas cylinders then start slowly turning up and then Tim starts to get very high, and as he's looking up at these toy fishes above him, you can see his vision getting blurry. All of a sudden, one of these toy fishes falls and lands right into Tim's mouth. Tim tries to move, but he's so high on the gas he's pretty much paralyzed. The toy fish starts to slowly go deeper and deeper into Tim's mouth and starts to choke him. It's quite an unnerving scene, and it does give you the creeps because even though we know it's a toy fish, it kind of feels like that there's a real one in Tim's mouth. Luckily, Tim is saved when a female receptionist comes into the room and grabs the toy fish out of Tim's mouth. I love the part when the dentist calls out to the female worker and asks, "How's Tim doing?" and the female worker's face is priceless. Number 7, Tim's death. Jumping straight off our last spot, and after Tim's rather horrific ordeal at the dentist, him and his mother Nora leave, and they see Kimberly and Officer Burke running over and calling out to them. Now Kimberly had a premonition about pigeons, and when Kimberly shouts out pigeons to Tim and Nora, Tim spots a bunch of pigeons on the floor and decides to run at them. Then some of the pigeons fly up in a construction worker's face, and an awful accident happens, causing the construction worker to drop a sheet of heavy glass, which ends up free falling on top of Tim, and it literally just ends up crushing and squashing him into a load of bloody mess. When I first saw this scene, I was quite shocked. I thought maybe Tim was going to survive the movie because I'm sure he was like supposed to be a 15-year-old kid or something, but I suppose no matter how old you are, death will always come for you. Number 6, Nora's death. A very gruesome death scene now in our next spot, and Nora leaves a meeting along with Eugene, and when they take a lift down to the ground floor, things take a turn for the worse. In the lift with them is a creepy old man with a trolley filled with artificial hands and hooks. And at one point this creepy old man starts to sniff the back of Nora's head until Eugene clocks him and the old man stops sniffing her. It's very, very odd and weird. Meanwhile, Rory is having his own premonition, and Officer Burke phones Nora to tell her that a man with hooks is going to kill her. So this freaks out Nora, and when her hair ends up getting caught on one of these hooks, she thinks this creepy old man is attacking her. It's a moment of confusion, but as Nora is trying to get herself off the hooks, the lift doors open and she tries to run out, but as she does that, the lift doors close and her head is stuck in between the doors of the lift. The lift then starts to go back up and Nora's body is being pulled up. It's an awful moment, and just as the lift tries to go up through to the next floor, Nora is decapitated. Number 5, Reminiscing. There's a great scene in the movie where the remaining surviving characters are in a car and they start talking about other times where they have cheated death. Eugene tells a story when a kid came into school with a knife and killed his teacher. Apparently Eugene would have been that teacher if he hadn't have been transferred to another school. Kat then says that she was supposed to go and stay at a B&B where all the guests ended up dying due to a gas leak, but she didn't end up getting there because she was on the very bus that killed character Terry in the first movie. They all share their stories and realize that all of their death experiences are all linked to the characters from the first movie, which I thought was a really clever way of tying it all in. Number 4, Death by Airbag. After the gang have finished talking about their near-death experiences, they end up in a car accident. Eugene ends up seriously hurt and Kat ends up trapped in the front seat. She notices that the broken sharp metal pipe has come through the back window and through the head of her car seat and has literally missed her by inches. A family then come over and help them all, and they call the ambulance and the fire crew. Kat is stuck in the driver's seat due to a tree branch damage, covering and crushing her legs. So the fire crew try to cut through, but when they do, the airbag is activated right into Kat's face, forcing her head to be impaled through the metal pipe that's come through the seat. It's a very shocking moment that takes you by surprise, and I do think this is probably my favourite death scene in the movie. Number 3, Rory is sliced into bits. Straight after Kat's shocking exit, Kat ends up dropping a lit cigarette from her dead hand, which ends up in the grass, and then a puff of wind blows the cigarette across the ground and into a pipe on the floor, which has also been filled with leaking car gas because a news crew had hit a rock as they arrived on the scene. So the cigarette ignites this gas and a fire starts down the pipe, causing a huge ring of fire, and then eventually it hits a car and causing an explosion in the field and causing a large piece of barbed wire to go flying through the air, which ends up going straight through Rory's body, causing his whole body to be sliced open in multiple places, and parts of Rory's body start to slide apart and they slip onto the ground. It's a little bit of a silly death scene in this movie, I will admit, but you've got to have a little bit of tongue-in-cheek in the Final Destination films. Number 2, Claire and Eugene's death. After the car crash, Eugene is rushed into hospital where he is being monitored on the hospital machines, but death has arrived at Eugene's bedside. The hospital door closes by itself along with the air vents. Then the wires from the oxygen tanks are pulled from the cylinders, and the trolley starts to move on its own, causing Eugene's breathing tank to disconnect. Meanwhile, Kimberly and Detective Burke and Claire are in another part of the hospital trying to make sure that pregnant lady Isabella has a safe labour, because for some reason Kimberly thinks that Isabella was one of the victims who was supposed to die in the original big car crash. But when Kimberly realises that she's got it wrong, Claire goes running to check on Eugene. But when Claire opens Eugene's hospital door, she causes all the flammable oxygen in the air to explode with a spark from the plugs, which ends up causing a huge explosion which kills both Eugene and Claire at the same time. I was a little bit gutted when Claire was killed off. You really felt for her character after everything that she had been through. But then again, with death, no one is safe. Number 1, the ending. After Kimberly and Detective Burke survive everything and they both end up cheating death, we then time jump to a much happier event. Kimberly and Detective Burke are having a barbecue with the very family who helped them after they had their car crash in the woods. Everything seems happy until the family start talking about a near-death story about their young boy that happened the same day as their car crash. Now, the young boy almost ended up getting run over, but he was saved by Rory at the time. Now, as the family are telling Kimberly this, the young boy is caught in a huge explosion from the barbecue, and the boy's burning arm lands on the mother's table right in front of her, ending with the mother screaming. It's a little bit cheesy and very silly, but this wouldn't be a Final Destination movie without a little bit of cheese. And that was 10 moments from Final Destination 2. So guys, what did you think of my list? Have you watched Final Destination 2? What did you think of it? For me, I really enjoy this movie and I love all of the Final Destination movies. The only movie that I feel is a little bit weaker than the rest of them is Final Destination 5. However, I do still like that movie too, but let me know all your thoughts in the comments box below. Okay then, thank you all for watching guys. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe, and I'll see you all again very soon.